You know how some people said that after seeing Psycho, they couldn't take a shower without locking the bathroom door? Well, I can never latch anything without thinking of poor Johnny Clay and his secondhand suitcase. Now, that ending is clearly a nod to the treasure of the Sierra Madre, one of several examples in the movie of Kubrick acknowledging films and filmmakers who'd inspired him. Now, one thing the director did not want was the expository voiceover provided by Art Gilmore. But United Artists insisted on it, fearing audiences would lose their bearings without a narrator explaining the backtracking flow of the action. Of course, this non-linear technique would become fairly common by 1992, when Quentin Tarantino used it to tell his fragmented heist story, Reservoir Dogs. On his first two features, Kubrick had done his own camera work. With this one being shot in Hollywood, he was obligated to hire a union DP, in this case, veteran cinematographer Lucien Ballard, who'd been shooting films since the early 30s. The blending of old-school craftsmanship and a more maverick approach to movie making was fraught with tension. Ballard resented being questioned by a young upstart, and pretty soon he stopped watching the dailies, feeling Kubrick's notions of composition and camera movement were embarrassing. And when it came to filming the big shootout, Kubrick wanted the camera to linger over the fallen bodies like gunsmoke drifting in the air. It required shooting the scene with a handheld camera, something the old pro found ridiculously amateurish. So Kubrick told Ballard to take a hike, and he handled the camera himself. Even at this early stage of his career, Kubrick was a perfectionist, insisting on precisely what he wanted and never settling for less. That's also why production was delayed for a couple of weeks. Kubrick wanted Marie Windsor, who was on location in Louisiana shooting Swamp Women. He'd settle for no one else, and I'm sure we all agree that Marie turned in her signature performance, even if she's a blonde. Windsor expected this to boost her career, which had declined along with the film noir movement by the mid-50s. And plenty of critics recognized Kubrick's film as a flash of exciting new energy, and just as many touted Marie for a Best Supporting Actress Oscar. But she didn't get the nomination she'd hoped for, largely because acrimony between Kubrick and United Artists killed any hope of the distributor campaigning on the film's behalf. One of the more distinctive bits of casting is the brawling distraction provided by Johnny's old pal, Maurice Obukhov, played with a virtually impenetrable dialect by Kola Kwariani.
You have undoubtedly heard of the Siberian godheader who tried to discover the true nature of the sun. He stared up at the heavenly body until it made him blind.
It's no coincidence that his introductory scene is set in a chess club, since that's where Kubrick met Kwariani back when the future director haunted such clubs in his native New York. I've always thought somebody should have made a noir wrestling saga starring Kola Kwariani and Stanislas Zabisco, who played Gregorius the Great in Night in the City. The only problem is that the entire film would have to be subtitled. Now, the nod for strangest cast member, however, goes hands down to Timothy Carey. Tales of Carey's oddball behavior are legend.
Well, who you betting on, mister? Anything look good to you? Red Lightning. Huh? Red Lightning in the 7th.
On the set of East of Eden, he refused Elia Kazan's instructions to enunciate his lines because, according to the actor, that's how pimps talk. Kazan ended up stabbing Carey with a ballpoint pen. The actor had a notorious reputation for improvising within scenes without telling the other actors beforehand. But he was unrivaled in the 1950s for playing characters who expressed their nuttiness in utterly unexpected ways. He brought a bizarre edginess to every role. The only downside was that there was no off position on his crazy switch. Like Lawrence Tierney, Tim Carey ended up being cast only by directors willing to play with fire to get that unique Carey cocktail on screen, an unhinged blend of scariness, vulnerability, and uncontrolled lunacy. Kubrick was willing. He cast Carey again as one of the court-martialed soldiers in his World War I classic, Paths of Glory. Cary would later become an independent filmmaker himself, writing, directing, and starring in the world's greatest sinner, The Room of its era, an amateurish and almost incomprehensible movie that still managed to predict the coming of Charles Manson and the dark side of celebrity worship, with a soundtrack composed by a pre-Mothers of Invention Frank Zappa. Wrapping up, I want to mention the vital role producer James B. Harris played, not only in this film, but in all of Stanley Kubrick's early movies. They'd found each other in New York and became producing and directing partners, and Harris was essential to Kubrick's ascent as a major talent. After Kubrick zoomed to the A-list, taking over production of Spartacus from Anthony Mann, Harris would forge his own solo career, which has included directing such films as The Bedford Incident, Walking Tall, Cop, and Boiling Point. And he's still around at 90 years of age. And last time I saw him, he was still looking for good crime yarns to turn into movies. So, do you think The Killing is the best heist movie ever? How about sharing a list of your favorites over on the Noir Alley Facebook page or Twitter feed? I'll be weighing in with my picks momentarily. And next week, I'll be back with an arty picture from 1946, Crack Up, in which Pat O'Brien loses his marbles in a train wreck, only to have everybody tell him it never happened. In other words, my typical Friday commute. We'll see you then.